Welcome to probably my most unique review video yet, namely because I'm playing a live service game this time. Naturally, this means the review is going to end up being dated in some ways over others, such as my footage primarily being from a certain season, with certain decks being meta at the time, yada yada. If you play Hearthstone or Master Duel, then you know where this is going. So I'll try to review the broad strokes, the sorts of things that are the foundation of the game rather than being the stuff that changes over time. This is also going to be my first review where there will be no story section whatsoever. There isn't even a pretense of there being a story in this game, as opposed to some other similar games I've reviewed that usually try for at least a vague premise, so the video may be shorter because of that as well. Well, that's all the preamble nonsense out of the way. Time to get into the nerdy stuff, which there is plenty of. This is Marvel Snap.
Wind, aid my hand.
With the lack of even a simple premise for this game beyond it's a TCG, the presentation has to pick up a lot of the slack here to get people on board. So, how well does it execute that idea? Pretty well, actually. The general aesthetic, barring the style changes that occur with the seasons, is this very sleek and space-like purple. I think it's meant to give off that sort of sci-fi multiversal feel, since it's all about Marvel characters going against each other, which makes sense to me. It's easy on the eyes and decently simple to navigate for the most part. Although it's very obviously made for smartphones first, the screen does that thing where it has momentum when scrolling, causing it to keep moving when you let go, even if you're on mouse and keyboard. It makes sense on phones, since you're just lightly scrolling with your finger, but with a mouse it can make those parts of the UI feel clunky to try and handle. And it also means that all the buttons are very, very big, so that no one fat finger. The sound design is good, everything has a nice impact, and the voice actors for the characters and narrator aren't grating even after hearing them for a good number of times in a row, so that's a good sign. But the most important part of the presentation in this game would be the card, for more reasons than just it being a card game. Card aesthetics are linked intrinsically with progression in this game, i.e. the way you progress is by spending a combination of card-specific boosters you earn, as well as general credits that you earn, to upgrade the visuals of a card. At first, you make the character break out of their frame, then they turn 3D, then they become quote-unquote animated, regardless of how noticeable or not that may be. Their logos become shiny, the borders, etc., which progresses you along an effectively never-ending level track that unlocks more resources and new cards for you at specific intervals. And you know what? It works. The cards really do look good. Some of the art is better than others, of course, but I'd say the vast majority of the art is very well done and takes advantage of the progression mechanics decently well. And the way they've integrated it with the monetization system is something that I like quite a bit. I should point out that I have never actually spent any money on this game to my knowledge. I may have spent like $10 on this game about a year ago, but I don't remember that if I did. So that should be a good sign to all of you about the monetization system of this game. But now I'm getting into the mechanics of things, so how about we move on to the actual gameplay.
Animated frame. Animated.
Unlike most other TCGs, online or otherwise, you don't engage in direct combat with your opponent, at least not intentionally, unless that's the kind of deck you're going for. The game board has 3 locations you can place your characters down onto your side of, with what each of those locations are and the stuff that they do being revealed one turn after the other. The energy that you use to play cards also increases 1 per turn, starting at 1. Your characters all have an energy cost and power, with your goal being to have more power than your opponent on at least 2 of the 3 locations by the end of the 6th turn. Unless that one location decides to show up and give everyone a 7th turn. And those are the basic rules. Play cards to have more power and play than your opponent. Simple enough, right? But of course, that's where effects come in. Both the cards in players' decks as well as the locations themselves have effects that can and or will alter how things go down. Sometimes allowing for some pretty sick combos, and sometimes nothing, or you get the weird stuff. This is something that I enjoy a bit about Snap as opposed to some other card games. It takes advantage of the fact that it's purely digital to do weird things. One anecdotal incident that I recall was when I had Ego the Living Planet be revealed multiple times, who takes control of the game and just starts playing cards for both you and your opponent, leaving the 2 of you completely helpless to do anything but watch as your plan inevitably falls apart. There's even a card version of this in the form of Agatha Harkness. Besides that, there are cards that move around, cards that destroy or discard other cards, cards that trigger after being destroyed or discarded, and everything in between, really. It's about as varied as you would hope a Marvel-themed card game would be, and I haven't personally encountered anything that would indicate the game being in some sort of Tier 0 situation like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has found itself in a few times before, where everyone is just running the exact same deck and it gets boring eventually. Sure, stuff like discard and movement are certainly better as of the time of writing this, but you can still get one over on the better decks due to the sheer amount of RNG you can exploit with the right cards. Because of that and the short span of a given game, it manages to convince you to stay the whole way in the hopes that you might clutch a win at the very end. Not to mention the titular snap mechanic, which is really just gambling your ranked points if you think you're gonna win. I, for one, am partial to playing a Thanos deck on occasion, requiring me to gather the Infinity Stones and usually failing miserably. But man, does it feel good when I succeed. And really, that's what matters here. Marvel Snap, in my experience, manages to keep itself decently competitive as a digital TCG, whilst also creating plenty of fun gameplay options to experiment with and keep people coming back. Combined with a healthy monetization scheme that rewards players pretty regularly with the currencies needed to upgrade cards, and I think this game is going to stick around for a good while longer. This has been TheRatMan, and I will see you all later. And lastly, a special thank you shout out to Mike Uniturtle and Reese. Thank you.